What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall markets. But please note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 more, and you're guaranteed 75. That offer ends in just about 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the markets. So one thing I was mentioning with the economic data is that we got PPI data. Core PPI was a little bit above expectations. It did show signs of an increase, which wasn't really the best, at least for the Fed's policies. Is it really enough to shift them? And the answer is not necessarily, because it depends on consistency, right? Just one inflationary reading that goes up is not enough. We need multiple ones in a row for that to really shift the Fed's policies. That's going to have a bigger impact on the markets. But for now, we're just waiting to see what happens with the next reports. So far, it's leading to some concerns, but it's not really that serious until we see what the next ones have to say. We had the Michigan consumer sentiment data that came out today. Basically, everything was below expectations, or almost everything. Consumer sentiment is below expectations. It's kind of weak for the month of October. Consumers are also doing this because of their view of the economy. Inflationary expectations are also above what expectations were before, and it's also showing an increase. And then on top of this, everything else is just showing more and more signs that consumers are concerned about the economy and inflation still. So that's what that's suggesting. There's not much else coming out. We just have like Cash Kari Waller and then Cash Kari again giving speeches on Monday. And there's not really much else coming out for the markets. SPY has a max payment of 571 as of right now. We have over 890,000 of these puts expiring. This is interesting because some of them did close. And for calls, we have over 300,000. But that's it, at least for that data. So what do I see for SPY? Technically, we are bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows, still trying to break to 580. But I do want to call out that despite us breaking out, when you zoom out like this, we have a clear rising wedge. So if we break 580, our next target is going to be around the 582 area. If we reject off that, we're looking for our main support all the way down here around 570, the 575 area, right? That's going to be very close to our 20 EMA. Overall, there's a nice uptrend. It's being respected very, very nicely, but you have to be very careful because there is a rising wedge, and we'll see if this pans out or not, right? So if you were to play this, you have a very, very nice like confluence with the fact that there's a triple bearish divergence, and simultaneously we also have this weakness that's developing on the overall chart. So there is a divergence that has been developing, but I want to make it very clear that if I were to play this, I'm not going to go like too heavy. I'm being very careful because the market is trying to uptrend, and whether we get that break or not would be like a better point of entry. So we're just waiting to see. So there's a rising wedge on SPY. We're at the upper resistance, as you guys can see quite clearly right here, but there's no sign the market's rejecting it, so just be mindful of that. This suggests there is a risk of the market rejecting in the future, maybe closer to the election, but right now we're not there yet, so be careful. Nvidia is trying to hold above 135. We have 135.5 as our resistance. If we break that, we're looking for 137, and then 140 is our targets. If we turn back down, we have support at 131. Overall, we're just going to be very patient, but there is some upside potential, at least for Nvidia. For ES, we have more upside potential as well. We're actually holding up quite well. So we have a rising wedge that's also developing on ES, but we're looking for 5880s, our resistance followed by 5900. Watch those two resistance areas. If we lose 5850, we're looking for 5820s, our main supports. Overall, the chart looks more bullish, but be patient with the way things are developing because we have some key levels that are developing. So I think we could push higher on ES, but be careful. There's a rising wedge on it as well. Bitcoin's trying to push for about 62,500, a little bit under that. We'll see if we break that or not. If we break that, I think we go all the way up towards this wick right here to the 63,000s. If we reject, we're going back down to 61,800. For NQ, we're trying to push up for 20,500. I think there's potential in this to try to break these highs. If these highs break, we're on our way for about the 20,600 area. So we'll see if we break this resistance or not. For the QQQ, we're trying to fight at this resistance as well at 494. We have a gap to fill as well around 496. So if 494 breaks, we're looking for 490, 496 is our target, followed by 500. I do want to note that that's close to the all-time high. It's going to be a very tough resistance. It's not that easy to break that. So we'll see how the QQQ does at 494. If we break that, we're more bullish. If not, we're looking for 490 as our target. There's a rising wedge on the QQQ as well, but we haven't shown signs of rejecting yet. So be patient with this, and we'll give this the time it needs. I think what I could also do is kind of like I might remove my drawings to draw out the wedge. I think I'm just going to prioritize that just for now because I think this is a very interesting setup, and there's a lot of potential in this wedge at least thus far. So right now we're not officially like turning bearish. We're not rejecting yet, but we'll have to see how this develops as well with these wedges forming on SPY and the QQQ. Aapl went up to 230, but they're delaying some projects. That's why Apple's dipping a little bit, and there's potential for us to come back down towards 226. So keep that in mind, guys. We could be dipping back down to 226 on Aapl if 228 fails us. We'll see how it does. We'll see if the IWM holds 220. If we don't, we're at risk of dipping to 218. But so far, we're doing a decent job, in my personal opinion. For others out there, we have Coinbase. Coinbase has resistance around 178. If that rejects, we're coming back down to about 175. So we're doing a pretty good job. Aapl also has resistance around this 190 area. If that rejects, we're dipping back down to 188. And if that fails, we have 185. So watch those levels carefully. Meta also has resistance around 590. If that rejects, we're dipping back down towards 585. But we're doing a good job as well. So we'll see if that pushes a little higher to 590 before it rejects. Microsoft has to reclaim 416. If it can't do that, we're dipping back down to about 414, then 410. Google also has resistance right here around this 165 area. If that breaks, we're pushing higher for 167. If we don't break that, we could reject. So give this some time. Well, that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. The market has pumped quite a bit, but be careful at this resistance because, like I said before, SPY has a rising wedge, and generally these do lead to interesting pieces of price action. They will lead to potential downside in the future. We're not officially losing the wedge, so don't turn too bearish, but just know that there is a risk of that potentially panning out. So, with that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a very, very fantastic rest of your days. I'll be back hopefully in a couple of hours for another update. If not, I will be back for sure after market close just to give you guys one more update for the day. So we'll see if the market turns or not. Make sure you watch the supports I called out. Oh, and by the way, for SPY, we have 580 as a tough resistance and 581. If we turn back down, we have 579 as support. If that fails us, we could get closer to 577.5 all over again. That's a previous all-time high. That's going to be our main support. And if 577.5 fails us, I could see this dipping all the way back down to about 575. So we'll be watching all these levels like really, really carefully, and we'll hope for the best nonetheless. So we'll see how all of this ends up going. But with that being said, guys, I just hope that everyone around here does very, very well with their trades. Be careful in trying to short the markets. I wouldn't go way too heavy. I wouldn't just like YOLO everything. I'd be very patient, and I would just like dollar cost average slowly, but only use money you're willing to lose if you're trying to short right now because the market's still risky. And we'll see how things go. When I'm talking about shorting, I'm not referring to intraday. I'm referring to like swinging for November. Be careful, but just know that there is a risk of us getting a big downturn looking at the rising wedge. All right, so the risk is there, but we haven't officially lost support yet to turn extremely bearish, and the market's not technically bearish yet until that happens. So we'll see how things go. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.